In this video, I'm going to talk about why we use and when we use definitions as the reason for a proof. And there are two places it comes up. One is at the beginning of the proof and the other is at the end of the proof. Let's take a look at a sample proof and see examples of this. All right, so in this proof, we're starting off with the statement that E is the midpoint of AB. Now, midpoint it's one of the vocabulary words we started with at the beginning of the year. And this is something that we know what it means because we understand the meaning of the word midpoint. But we're going to want to change it into a statement that just talks about congruence of sides. So knowing that E is the midpoint of AB, what two sides in this diagram have to be congruent to each other? E is the midpoint of AB, which means E is in the middle of this line segment, which means the distance from A to E is the same as the distance from B to E. So that means that I can conclude that AE is congruent to BE. Once again, since this is in the middle of this line segment, the distance from the middle to this side has to be the distance from the middle to that side. And that's exactly what this congruent statement is. To prove this congruent statement, the only thing I did was I took this line from above and translated what it means without the word midpoint, just based on what midpoint means. And so that reason is going to be the definition of midpoint. Okay, so that's one place where we use the definition as a reason. And the reason I would see it is if I saw a given statement that included a vocabulary word, I would know automatically that at some point I've got to translate that into a congruent statement using the definition of the vocabulary word to justify it. So whenever you've got a vocabulary word in your given statements, you know you've got a definition coming up. Another place that it comes up, E is sometimes at the bottom of the proof. So E is the midpoint of CD is what we need to prove in this. The way we're going to prove it is we're going to have some congruent statement right above it, and then we're going to translate it into this vocabulary. Just the opposite of what we did to get from step 1 to step 3, we're going to get from this step to this step. So saying that E is the midpoint of CD, what does that mean in congruence language? Once again, looking at this diagram. Well, it's the same thing we just saw. Since E is the middle of this line segment, it means that CE has to be congruent to DE. And I don't know what the reason for this is, but now that I've, once I have this statement established, this can be my next statement. And this is going to be once again because of the definition of midpoint. So these are the two places where you use the definition of midpoint: when you've got a given statement that you need to translate into geometry language, and when you need to prove something that involves a vocabulary word, you're going to use the definition to get you, again, from geometry language translated into English like that. So those are the two places that you use definitions in proofs. And so if you don't see either of those things in a proof, you're not going to use definitions as a reason.